What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com. Here are my DFS picks for NBA Friday, May 14th. These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button and hit that bell icon so you don't miss our new videos. In this video, I'm going to go over my top picks for today's NBA slate. And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made. Okay guys, we have an 8-game slate tonight, so let's take a look at the point guard position. I like Reggie Jackson from the LA Clippers playing the Houston Rockets, who have the second worst defense overall, and they give up the third most fantasy points to opposing point guards. Reggie Jackson, he's averaged 20 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 23 minutes per game with a 20% usage rate. He scored 30, 9, and 22 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 27, 17, and 31 minutes. He's projected at 21.8 fantasy points here tonight, and that's 5.2 times value. He's 4,200 FanDuel salary, and he's 200 more on DraftKings. Vegas thinks there's going to be 227 points scored in this game, and I like this pick because Reggie Jackson has scored 38, 47, 7, and 38 fantasy points in his last 4 games versus the Rockets. It's a fantastic matchup, so I like Reggie Jackson here versus the Houston Rockets. Okay, another point guard that I like is Saben Lee from the Detroit Pistons playing the Denver Nuggets, who have a good defense overall, and they've been good versus opposing point guards. And Saben Lee, he scored 40 and 30 fantasy points in the last 2 games, playing 28 and 32 minutes. He's projected at 17.4 fantasy points here tonight, but that projection is a little bit low because he's playing almost double the minutes as his season average. So I think he can score 25 fantasy points or more here and get you over 5 times value. He's 4,100 FanDuel salary, and he's 100 less on DraftKings. Vegas thinks there's going to be 221 points scored in this game, so I like Saben Lee here versus the Denver Nuggets. And the other point guard from the Detroit Pistons is Killian Hayes, and he's 5,200 FanDuel salary, and he's 600 more on DraftKings, but he's playing a ton of minutes, and he's got 30 plus fantasy point upside, so I like him on FanDuel. I'd probably play Saben Lee on DraftKings, but I think both of these point guards have upside here versus the Denver Nuggets. Before I continue with the picks, I'm excited today because we added a new contest for everyone watching. If you want to enter the drawing for $100 PayPal, all you need to do is like this video, hit that subscribe button, and make a quick comment below to be entered into the drawing. We'll reply to a random comment and let you know that you won, and then we'll send you $100 PayPal. So it's that easy, and we pick a new winner every Saturday and announce them in our video. So get your comment in now so I can add another entry for you. Now guys, just as a quick note, we just released a free DFS contest on Draft Dashboard for MLB and NBA for DraftKings and FanDuel. There's over $500 available in the prize pool, and this is a totally free contest you can enter as a Draft Dashboard member. So make sure to click the link in the description of this video, give Draft Dashboard a try, and you can start playing in our free DFS contest and compete to win some money. Okay, let's take a look at the shooting guard position. I like him here again. He's just been crushing it. I like Dillon Brooks from the Memphis Grizzlies playing the Sacramento Kings, who have the 6th worst defense overall, and they give up the 6th most fantasy points to opposing shooting guards. Dillon Brooks has averaged 27.1 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 30 minutes per game with a 26% usage rate. But take a look at his last 3 games. He scored 50, 40, and 36 fantasy points in his last 3 games, playing 37, 32, and 30 minutes. So what I like about this pick is take a look at his usage rate. His usage rate on the season is 26%, but the last 3 games his usage rate was 33, 33, and 34%. So he's projected at 29.2 fantasy points here tonight, but I think he can score 32 fantasy points or more and get you over 5 times value. He's 6,000 FanDuel salary, and he's 400 more on DraftKings. Vegas thinks there's going to be 228.5 points scored in this game, and he scored 50, 32, and 37 fantasy points in his last 3 games versus the Kings. So I like Dillon Brooks here versus the Sacramento Kings. Okay, another shooting guard that I like is Armoni Brooks from the Houston Rockets playing the LA Clippers, who have a good defense overall, and they're middle of the pack defending opposing shooting guards. Armoni Brooks has scored 35, 25, and 28 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 36, 24, and 33 minutes. Now, he's projected at 21 fantasy points here tonight, but I think he can score 27 fantasy points or more and get you 5 times value or more. He's 5,500 FanDuel salary, and he's 700 less on DraftKings. Vegas thinks there's going to be 227 points scored in this game, so I like Armoni Brooks here versus the LA Clippers. Okay, let's take a look at the small forward position. I like Stanley Johnson from the Toronto Raptors playing the Dallas Mavericks, who have a good defense overall, and they've been good versus opposing small forwards. But Stanley Johnson, he scored 64 fantasy points last game, played 43 minutes with a 26% usage rate. So I think he can score 25 fantasy points or more here and get you well over 5 times value with some major upside. He's 3,500 FanDuel salary, and he's 500 more on DraftKings. Vegas thinks there's going to be 221 points scored in this game, so I like Stanley Johnson here versus the Dallas Mavericks. Okay, another small forward that I like is Najee Marshall from the New Orleans Pelicans playing the Golden State Warriors, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, and they give up the 10th most fantasy points to opposing small forwards. Najee Marshall, he scored 21, 39, and 17 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 29, 30, and 27 minutes. I think he can score 26 fantasy points or more here and get you 5 times value or more. He's 4,900 FanDuel salary, and he's 300 more on DraftKings. Vegas thinks there's going to be 229.5 points scored in this game, and he scored 23 and 23 fantasy points in his last 2 games versus the Warriors, but now he's playing about 30% more minutes, so he's averaging more minutes, so his production is up. So I like Najee Marshall here versus the Golden State Warriors. Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all of our DFS tools for all sports. You can try the Position Optimizer, where you can see the top players ranked for each position. And we added a new Player Trends tool, where you can see the top salary differences between FanDuel and DraftKings. It's a really good tool to help you pick out value for the site that you're playing on. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups. Okay, let's take a look at the power forward position. I'm going to give you a value play here. High risk, high reward, but I like Cameron Oliver from the Houston Rockets playing the LA Clippers, who have a good defense overall, and they've been good versus opposing power forwards. But Cameron Oliver scored 26 fantasy points in 22 minutes last game with a 23% usage rate. He's projected at 25.1 fantasy points here tonight It's a small sample size, so that's why there's a lot of risk to this play, but that would be 7.2 times value. He's 3,500 FanDuel salary, and he's 300 less on DraftKings. So we know Vegas thinks there's going to be 227 points scored in this game, so I like Cameron Oliver as a high-risk, high-reward tournament play here versus the LA Clippers. Okay, another power forward that I like is Aaron Gordon from the Denver Nuggets playing the Detroit Pistons, who have the 13th worst defense overall, and they give up the 4th most fantasy points to opposing power forwards. Aaron Gordon has averaged 26.6 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 28 minutes per game with a 21% usage rate. He scored 27 and 35 fantasy points in the last 2 games, playing 30 and 28 minutes. He's projected at 26.5 fantasy points here tonight, and on FanDuel, that's 6.8 times value because he's only 3,900 FanDuel salary, but he is 1,500 more on DraftKings, so I love that FanDuel price. Vegas thinks there's going to be 221 points scored in this game, and he scored 17 and 54 fantasy points in his last 2 games versus the Pistons. It's a good matchup, so I like Aaron Gordon here versus the Detroit Pistons. Okay, moving on to the center position. I like Rudy Gobert from the Utah Jazz playing the Oklahoma City Thunder, who have the absolute worst defense overall, and they give up the 7th most fantasy points to opposing centers. Rudy Gobert has averaged 40.4 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 31 minutes per game with a 17% usage rate. He scored 46, 28, and 39 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 34, 30, and 31 minutes. He's projected at 40.3 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.2 times value. He's 7,700 FanDuel salary, and he's 500 more on DraftKings. So he scored 53 and 44 fantasy points in his last 2 games versus the Thunder, and Vegas thinks there's going to be 222 points scored in this game. It's a great matchup, so I like Rudy Gobert here versus the Oklahoma City Thunder. Okay, another center that I like is Moses Brown from the Oklahoma City Thunder playing the Utah Jazz, who have a good defense overall, and they give up the 11th most fantasy points to opposing centers. Moses Brown, he's averaged 23.1 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 21 minutes per game with a 17% usage rate. But he scored 29, 38, and 18 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 27, 25, and 19 minutes. So his minutes have been trending up. He's projected at 25.9 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5 times value. He's 5,200 FanDuel salary, and he's 400 less on DraftKings. So I like that DraftKings price. And he scored 37 fantasy points in his last game versus the Jazz. We know Vegas thinks there's going to be 222 points scored in this game, so I like Moses Brown here versus the Utah Jazz. If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smackety smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NBA slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.